I am Luke Hattelstad. I am the Public Information Officer for Arapahoe County, and I'm here to welcome you to Conversations with a Commissioner. Tonight we have Commissioner Bill Holen from District 5, and he's being joined by his special guest, Director of Finance, Todd Weaver. This is a 1-hour event, and it's meant to be as interactive as possible. You may have attended some of our other virtual conferences over the past few months. I believe we've done about 10 since the COVID crisis started. And they've, of course, all been focused on COVID and the various aspects of that, both in terms of county business and schools and medical experts and so forth. For tonight's event, we want to make this more about the business of the county that continues to go on, even in the face of the shutdowns and everything else that we've experienced over the past few months. We have indeed been extremely busy. And, not only with addressing the COVID crisis itself, but also with, making sure that all of our services are available. In many cases, we've migrated them to an online operation as opposed to in person. So we want to talk more about what's been happening there since the first quarter of the year. If you've attended these events in the past, you probably did so in person. We have each commissioner every quarter go out in their district and meet in person with their constituents, anyone who's interested in showing up. They take questions, they talk about the county business. Obviously, we can't do an in-person meeting right now, but we're trying this virtual format to see how everyone likes it. And it's so far been a good format for us, and we hope you enjoy it as well. Now, the way that it's going to work is I'm going to introduce our presenters tonight, and we're going to watch a short video. And then Commissioner Holen will provide a presentation for you about all the updates in various categories of county business. Todd will also chime in on anything financially related and budget related. And then we will take questions from you as they come up. Now, there's several ways to do that. If you're watching us on our arapahogov.com webpage, you can submit questions via the chat box on that page. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can submit a question in the comments section, and we will read. In both cases, we'll read those aloud. And if you're on the phone, you want to dial *3, and you'll be transferred to an operator who will funnel you through so you can answer your question live. This is the second of 5 Q3 events we're going to be doing with the commissioners. We've already done Commissioner Jackson a few nights ago. And the next 3 will be Thursday, August 27th, will be Commissioner Jeff Baker, District 3, and he'll be joined by our Open Spaces Director, Shannon Carter. On Thursday, September 3rd, Commissioner Nancy Sharp of District 1 will be joined by Cheryl Turnus from the Human Services Department, and I believe actually Commissioner Sharp is District 2, not District 1. And then finally, we have Commissioner Kathleen Conti of District 1. She will be going sometime the week of September 7th. We have not nailed down a date yet, but she'll be joined by the Director of Public Works and Development, Brian Weimer. All these events start at 7 p.m. and have the same format in terms of asking questions and so forth. So if you want to attend more than one, or you live in one district, work in another, maybe you want to attend all of them, we welcome your participation. So before we get started with the actual presentation, I want you to watch this short video from Commissioner Holen.
These are some of the awards that I've received.
Arapahoe County Commissioner Bill Holen is a Vietnam Army veteran and former member of the Colorado Air National Guard.
I served in Vietnam in 1967, 1968, which probably was the most traumatic time to serve there. I learned a lot from that experience. Number one, the pain and suffering of war, but more importantly, the importance of leadership.
Now in his second term as County Commissioner for District 5, which covers the city of Glendale and parts of Aurora, Holen is committed to helping veterans access better health care, improving the job market by partnering with local business leaders, and perhaps most important,
thank you all for being here.
His commitment to curbing the opioid drug problem.
We're averaging between 2 and 7 people a week dying of overdose from prescription drugs.
Opioid addiction is growing so fast
This issue strikes everybody in this county.
that Holen organized a town hall and invited the community to discuss the issue and find solutions.
I think a lot of people aren't aware of the significant dangers that these prescription pain-killing drugs have on our society.
With his passion to improve the county he calls home, Holen says he wants to leave a legacy as one who advocated for others.
You can do it. I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. A commissioner that listens and speaks for those who don't have the voice.
Commissioner Bill Holen can be reached at 303-795-4630 or bholen@arapahoegov.com. For more information on the Board of County Commissioners, visit arapahoegov.com.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate your introduction, and I'm happy to be providing this opportunity for us to chat with our constituents. As the video indicated, I'm a disabled Vietnam veteran. I've served both in the United States Army in Vietnam and nearly 10 years with the Colorado Air National Guard. I'm a retired federal employee, having worked both in the United States Senate as a staffer for Senator Gary Hart and in the Congress with Ed Perlmutter, who is now in the 7th Congressional District, which once encompassed portions of Arapahoe County. I think it's so important to find new technologies like we're providing today so that we can talk to and express policy issues to our constituents. Tonight, I want to thank Luke for being here. He's our public relations officer. He has a storied career in journalism, and he's done a terrific job in trying to make sure that the story of Arapahoe County is presented in a concise and educational way. Also, I am the liaison with Todd Weaver, who is with us today, who's the director of finance for the county, and he has one of the most difficult jobs in the county, and that is to make sure that the money we receive from your taxes and the grants from the government is appropriately dispersed in a legal and efficient manner. I'm so glad you're all here today to listen to some of the information we're about to provide, and it's such an honor for me to be able to serve you. I've served 2 terms with the county, and my goal is to leave a legacy of good deeds that make the quality of life improve for the county, that we have an effort to sustain our development and create new and sustainable jobs for our citizens, and also ensure that our environmental issues are addressed so that we have clean air, clean water, and a viable and efficient transportation system. My fellow commissioners and I are interested in hearing from you, which is really the purpose of this effort to communicate directly with you. We want to know your hopes and dreams for the county, as well as those things that cause you concern. The Board of County Commissioners are always looking for different ways for you to engage with us. We also have a telephone town hall quite regularly where we engage up to 6,000-7,000 people on the call to listen to what your concerns are. Each one of those town halls addresses a specific issue. With what's happened relative to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have devoted a lot of times, both in our communications department and us personally, to do whatever is necessary as a county to ensure that we attack this vicious and insidious virus effectively and efficiently. We're very lucky to have the Tri-County Health Department under the leadership of Dr. Douglas, who is effectively using science and the recommendations of the National Institute of Health and the CDC to set standards to address this issue. We have been very successful, as a matter of fact. From April to currently, we have reduced the number of infections in the county by over 50%. The hospitalizations have been reduced significantly, and our deaths as of the middle of this month have been zero. So our efforts by requiring the wearing of masks as dictated by the governor, by social distancing, and by making sure that people who are entering businesses are wearing masks and adhere to the policies and procedures set forth by the federal government. We're also increasing our frequency of our commissioner newsletters, the county line, from monthly to weekly, and this will provide you with more updated information, particularly focusing on COVID-19. This has been a particularly busy year for the county, even apart from the COVID crisis. We have a number of big projects that are ongoing. I'd like to give you an overview of some of these projects today, and I also want to hear from you about your hopes and aspirations for the county. Let's dive in. Elections. We still have a general election coming up on November 3rd. It's a national election where we determine who will be the next president, and our federal representatives from the House of Representatives and from the Senate. We are committed to ensure that good processes and increasing communications with voters, particularly this year when we are likely to see more mail-in voting than usual. The last cycle of the election, we had a significant increase in voter participation and nearly a 92% increase in ballots that have mailed in. And we encourage everybody to mail their ballots in. If you don't want to mail them in, you can drop them off either at the county or the various drop boxes around each of our communities to ensure that they are credited and counted. You also have an opportunity to go online to track your ballots once you've mailed them or dropped them off, and the county will tell you, our system will tell you when they were received and would ensure that they would be counted. Our motor vehicle and recording offices are not able to operate as they have in the past. We've had to reduce our method of dealing with those people wanting to get their licenses and registration. Even so, we're currently serving between 60 and 70% of pre-COVID customers, which is almost well over 1,000 people a day. But you have to register ahead of time. Call the county recording office, and they will provide you with the necessary information, or simply go online to our website. We're actively assessing the opportunity to digitize all the county records to help increase online public access and reduce the need to come in personally. This is particularly relevant to those people looking to look at ownership issues, and we have physical documents going back to the initial formation of Arapahoe County in the 1800s. So we're trying to make an effort to digitize those, so the research on specific ownership of property will be expedited, and provide our real estate people an opportunity to ensure that in processing loans and purchases that the information is accurate. Another issue that's happening this year is the United States Census. This is a very important process, which is actually required by the Constitution, where we count every individual within the government jurisdictions. And this is important because these this population information is used by the federal government to determine how to provide financial resources to the various programs that the government provides, such as the unemployment compensation, the efforts relative to taxes, as well as the types of services that we provide in our Human Services Department, such as the nutritional programs and protection of our elderly and children. Census data is also directly impacting funding of many of those services, such as economic development, housing assistance, transportation improvement, and the critical services I mentioned earlier of human services. Our service area includes a diverse population and is quite large geographically. And this poses a very difficult process in having the census workers get an accurate count. So this year you can go online and fill out the census form, which will limit the requirement for people to come knocking on your door or calling you. So we urge all our citizens to fill out your census form and get it into the office. We're beginning a process, as we have every year, to look at the different service areas that we provide. We're currently working on our open space master plan. As many of you know, one of the taxes the only real sales tax that we have is with the open space program. With these funds, we purchase lands, additional land to set aside for environmental preservation and public access. We build trails. We have one of the largest trail systems in the state, and we also provide assistance to all our cities through our so-called share-back program, whereby each year, based upon the census data, basically, where we give them direct grants for their programs, based on that breakdown of population, and also we provide grant programs for those cities that bring forth an idea for a special project, which we will provide grants for them up to, in some cases, $1 million. The master plan will create a strategy for preserving open spaces in the county, examine how we care for and enhance the lands we currently set aside for preservation, and to help make the case for extending this tax in the future. Many of you I know enjoy the outdoors, and we're very fortunate to have had the citizens support this effort in the past. We will probably come up in the future and ask you for your support to continue the program. We're in the process of building out our transportation master plan as well. Transportation is always a hot topic for anyone in the metro area, Arapahoe County included. I serve on the National Transportation Committee for the National Association of Counties, and serve with our transportation master plan program, where we bring in all the municipalities and special districts to discuss and develop a comprehensive transportation plan, where we'll recommend specific projects once a consensus is developed, and then those projects will be submitted to the Denver Regional Council of Government, which will provide funding for those programs as we have recommended. I serve on the Arapahoe County Airport Commission Authority. I'm a commercial pilot myself, so I have a very keen interest in aviation. Been flying since I've been 16 years old. We're faced this year with some major changes that the Federal Aviation Administration has initiated to change the egress and egress and takeoff patterns for DIA. These have required changes in the flight paths of these aircraft, and some citizens are experiencing concerns about the added noise. The county is part of a suit against the Federal Aviation Administration, specifically asking for and questioning the environmental assessment process by which the FAA made these determinations. We will have to wait and see how these specific concerns are addressed by the FAA. We've written a letter to the FAA about these concerns, and the county supports a broader goal of modernizing aviation operations, but we believe that the current proposal may cause significant environmental impacts on our community and will negatively impact the quality of the human environment. Our airport, on the other hand, has been very, in spite of the COVID-19 shutdown of a lot of the commercial aviation, our airport is a general aviation airport and hosts a lot of general aviation corporate jets. We had a 75% reduction in our overall traffic in the last 3 months, but we're seeing now a rise and a nearly a significant increase in traffic. Our sales tax on gas provides operational costs for the airport, and we also rely on specific grants for improvement of our runways and our avionics, which are in need of improving the technology. Now, the big issue that's impacted every one of us lately in the last 3 months has been the COVID virus. It has had a significant impact on our economy, forcing many restaurants to close for a long period of time, and we're gradually opening them up as we request variances from the state health Department of Health and that is controlling the authorization to open these restaurants. We are very proud of our Office of Emergency Management, which has been operating 24/7 for the last 3 months and providing assistance to local municipalities. We have stockpiled millions of personal protective equipment, as well as other equipment to assist in this COVID-19 virus epidemic or pandemic, and nearly well over 800 requests have come in over the last 3 months for equipment that we've provided hospitals, nursing homes, and other facilities that are in need of protecting their employees and the general public. We're very proud of that. We've received money directly from the federal government, nearly $114 million, to help offset these costs, and we are extremely proud of the efficient and effective manner that Todd and his staff has done in the disbursement of these funds. to ensure that they're used in the appropriate manner, and that no fraud or abuse of these grants to cities and special districts are abused. So Todd's done a terrific job. His staff has worked very hard to ensure that credible standards are put forward, and we'll continue to utilize these funds until the end of December, when we have to return what hasn't been allocated. We're very fortunate to have a new sheriff in town, or in the county, and we are very proud of the operational efficacy of the department, the sheriff's department and office, and we provide public safety services to over 644,000 people within the county. The county covers over 900 square miles, and the Sheriff's Department provides full-time patrols for Centennial, Bennett, Deer Trail, Foxfield, and unincorporated Arapahoe County. There are 8 patrol precincts across the country, and they manage 1,500 beds at our detention center. Fortunately, and we're very proud of the fact that we've seen some increases or decreases in our prison population. We went from over 1,200 prisoners to we only have about 560 some prisoners in our detention facilities, and these are felony prisoners who should be in jail. So we're effectively providing rehabilitation services for these individuals, and we're trying to make them capable of moving out of the system and become effective and tax-paying citizens. Despite the infusion, and this is something that maybe we'll talk about, in spite of some of the federal funds that we've gotten through the COVID CARES Act funds, the economy is still having an adverse impact on the county. Our resources have been limited from past years, and I'd like to turn this section over to Todd, who is our finance person, and he will give you kind of the good news and the bad news. Todd?
Thank you, Commissioner Holen. First off, thank you for inviting me to be part of your discussion with citizens this evening, and thank you all for being online to learn a little bit more about the county. And my job tonight is kind of talking a little bit about the finances of the county in the current environment, as well as how some of our long-term fiscal issues are impacting Arapahoe County. The general fund is our main operating fund for the county. It provides most of the revenue for the programs and services, a lot of those of which Commissioner Holen has talked about this evening: the clerk and recorder, elections, motor vehicle, the sheriff's office. What we've seen, our general first off is about $200 million, just over $200 million. And we offset that with $100 million of revenue. The primary revenue source for our general fund is property tax, and that comes from the mill levy that are assessed on all homeowners or property owners in Arapahoe County. Our mill levy for 2020 is 11.685 mils. It's still one of the lowest mill levies. In fact, it probably is the lowest mill levy in the Denver metro area. What we're seeing now with in the after effects of COVID is we're seeing slower growth in revenues. And in fact, in some revenues, we're seeing a little bit of a decline. Our sales and use tax that Commissioner Holen referred to a little earlier that we use for the preservation and conservation of open space, we're expecting probably a digit drop in that revenue in 2020. We're hoping that in 2021, as businesses open back up and the economy gets back to whatever normal looks like going forward, that some of that revenue will return and provide that funding for open space. But we're looking for a little bit of a decline through 2020 and 2021. Property tax, kind of the same way. We were going along pretty well for the last 6 years, and keep in mind that the property tax assessment cycle is once every other year they assess that property. So for the last 3 assessment cycles, we've seen that growth in property values here in Arapahoe County, as we've seen across the state of Colorado. Housing is more expensive, in some areas prohibitively expensive, but commercial values were also increasing. Now that we've had the downturn in the economy due to COVID, we're projecting that while residential prices may hold relatively steady, we're expecting a decline in commercial property in Arapahoe County and across the state of Colorado. And the important thing to remember about commercial property in Colorado is, due to the way the tax laws are set up here in Colorado, commercial property pays about 4 times the amount of, well, that's not, let me rephrase that. Commercial property is valued at about 4 times the same rate as a residential property. So $100,000 of commercial property has a taxable value of about $29,000. $100,000 of residential property has a taxable value of about $7,000. So when those businesses are paying into property tax, due to the Gallagher Amendment, which is going to be on the ballot this year, and it's important for, I think, citizens to become a little bit more knowledgeable about how the Gallagher Amendment works and how it affects revenues to local schools, cities, and counties. Those commercial businesses are paying a larger share of the property tax in Arapahoe County. Now, there's way more residential property than there is commercial property. So obviously, there's a lot of revenue coming in from residential as well. But when we have that drop in commercial value as a result of COVID-19, that will trigger a reduction in the assessment rate for residential property and should lower the taxable value of Arapahoe County, or at least significantly handicap the growth in that taxable value going forward, at least for maybe the next assessment cycle. Once again, we're hoping as the economy recovers that the prices relative are kind of stabilize and hold their relative value as they have in the past. But with all those revenue issues, it's important to keep in mind that just like your own personal budgets, the budget of the county, we have a lot of expenses that don't stop growing, regardless of whether there's a downturn in the economy or not. Roadway maintenance and construction becomes more expensive as time goes on. So we've got a backlog of deferred maintenance, not only for roadway maintenance, but also as the metro area grows, there's a backlog in the amount of roadways that we can construct with the available revenue we have to help ease congestion. Commissioner Holen referred to some of the transportation committees and forums that he and other commissioners are involved in trying to solve some of those regional transportation issues. We also have buildings that age. And when you have a relatively frugal budget like Arapahoe County does, there are many expenses that sometimes you just put off for another day. So we have deferred maintenance not only on some of our county facilities that you as citizens may access on a regular basis for motor vehicle or election or to pay your taxes or a wide range of other services. But we also have deferred maintenance in some of the facilities that you may not frequent, which foremost among those and related to the sheriff's office is our county detention facility. There's a lot of issues in that detention facility that we'd like to be able to address. We proposed a ballot initiative last year that was unsuccessful, but those problems do not go away. We'll have to figure out ways to address those going forward. So looking ahead to 2021, we're expecting it to be a relatively uncertain budget year, so we're being relatively conservative with our spending for 2021. It would be nice if the economy could turn around a little bit quicker, not only for you folks as residents, but also for us as the government to give us a little more stability in providing those programs and services. But we're also guarding against a longer downturn and making sure that we can keep that budget balanced. Looking ahead to 2022, 2021, the odd year when the assessor will go out and essentially reappraise all the property in Arapahoe County. So for 2022 property taxes in 2022's budget, that's when we're kind of expecting that any kind of long-lasting impact from the economic downturn of 2020 will be seen in our property tax revenue. So we're expecting the 2022 budget to be a bit more difficult than 2021. So the bottom line is unless there are more financial resources, we're going to have some tough decisions coming up that we're going to have to make as a county on how we deliver some of those services and, what volume can we provide some of those services? What kind of depth of that level of service can we provide? So that's kind of looking at our current budget situation and our fiscal status. And as I said, we're guarding against a prolonged downturn and trying to put that federal money that we received from the CARES Act to good use and backfilling some of the additional expenses that we have had as a result of COVID-19. But there will be some things we need to look at going forward as far as finances, whether it be increasing our efficiencies and finding new ways to provide those services, or potentially making some changes in those service levels to fit the amount of revenue we have. So I think that kind of summarizes what I wanted to talk about tonight as far as the finances of the county, and I'll turn it back over to Luke and Commissioner Holen. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. You bring us a dose of reality every time you present to us. And it's a challenge that's facing all levels of government. How do we operate at the same level of efficiencies and yet not have the sufficient funds to maintain those levels? So the challenge is not only in finding ways to increase our revenue, but also find more efficient ways of governance. And we're the county commissions are committed to looking at the entire budget process. We'll probably have spend a lot of time in looking at how we do our services, and many things are improving. For example, a majority of our staff during this COVID virus are working from home, and we're finding that doing that has not significantly influenced the efficiencies. In fact, of our governance process. In fact, it has improved it. So I think the private sector is also seeing this. So there may be ways of changing the structure of our workforce and how we do our jobs, which will provide more efficiencies and save money. What keeps us up at night? What are the issues are most important to you? And if you didn't vote for 1A, what could we do? What could we as a county have done different to get our message out about the need for improvements in our jail? Let the audience now. Let you answer, or let us answer your direct questions. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Luke, and we'll see what you're thinking. What's on your mind? What answers do you need from us? And what recommendations can you provide to help us improve the way we govern the county? Thank you.
Thank you both. We do have some good questions coming in. I'm going to start with an online question for Commissioner Holen. And this is more of a sort of gut reaction question. It is, I'm wondering if you, Commissioner Holen, are optimistic about the future of Arapahoe County and why? Absolutely.
I've been doing this job for nearly 10 years now. I was appointed initially, so I've got 8 years in and 9 years. I'm in my 9th year and up for re-election in November. I'm very optimistic about the future of Arapahoe County. We have making exciting progress in a variety of industries, in spite of the fact that the oil and gas industry is dependent upon the price of oil, and thusly they're reduce their production in the county. The fact is that we have a growing and really aspirational aerospace industry. We're seeing significant new contracts coming into the major defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, United Launch Alliance was a consortium of several aerospace companies that deal with the launching of satellites and other space-centric ideas. Raytheon, I can name 100 companies, small and large, that actually are contributing to our economy. In addition to the tax revenues that we receive, we also have most of these jobs are high-paying jobs. So they drive our housing market. They drive the need for improvements in our transportation system, and also the need for improvements in education. So I'm very optimistic. I think that our energy, alternative energy programs in the county and the state are thriving, producing jobs. Companies like Vescas, which is a wind turbine company, is sending trainloads and trainloads of new wind generators all over the world from Colorado. And many of my constituents work for these corporations. Our finance system is well, it's been a tough year for them. They are being very efficient and effective in providing in the disbursement of the COVA funds, the PPE funds, the business loans and grants to medium and small businesses. We in the county just are in the process of dispersing nearly $5 million grants to small business, and we've got several hundred people that have already companies that have already received these to help with payroll and to help with the cost of doing business, so they can ensure that they have sufficient resources to work through this crisis. So I think the most important thing that I think I'm optimistic about is the people of the state. We have a strong, committed, and educated workforce that is attracting a new and prosperous companies to come into Colorado. We just yesterday announced that a major corporation has purchased nearly 500,000 square feet of space in Aurora that will be used for their needs and will provide nearly 1,900 jobs. So we're seeing improvements. I serve on the Aurora Economic Development Council. I have for several years, and their only job is to seek opportunities to bring new and innovative businesses into the county, and these are high-paying jobs. Like Fidelity was 2 years ago brought their headquarters here, almost 2,000 new jobs, and they're high-paying and great opportunity for employees to make Colorado their home. But I think that we have our challenges. Obviously, we have our problem with air pollution. I serve on the air quality, the state air quality commission, and we're struggling every day to try to find new ways of reducing harmful pollution that is very impactful on our citizens, and particularly those with lung and the elderly. So the other issue is water. Water is has a constraining influence on business development. So those are some of the issues that we all have to face. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, our transportation system. People have to be able to get to work, and they need to get to work safely, and they need to get to work as rapidly as we can. We don't want to turn into a Los Angeles where there's a 3 to 4 hour takes 3 or 4 hours to get to and from work, which is does not improve the quality of life of our citizens.
Thank you, Commissioner. And to piggyback on that, to get more specific information about our transportation plans, I would invite you to tune into the conversation with the Commissioner with Commissioner Conti the week of September 7th, because she'll be joined by Brian Weimer from our Public Works and Development, and he can talk in a lot more detail about what our specific plans are right now. So to go to another question, you both touched on this a little bit with regards to the budget and things like deferred maintenance and stuff like that. Can both of you talk a little more about what internally we're doing to cut expenses and stuff? I know that in our department, we're looking at all our subscriptions and all of our licenses and things like that to make sure that we're spending the money effectively and efficiently on the right things, not spending too much, not wasting money on things we don't use. How are you, from the board's perspective and from Todd's Department of Finance perspective, how are you sort of doing an audit of our operations?
Well, I'll start, and then I want to turn it over to Todd for more specificity and what the needs are, because he has the general information on what we need to address. But overall for the county, we're in the process of putting together our annual strategic plan. That plan is focused specifically on how can we sustain existing policies and programs and yet find significant areas that we can create more efficiencies, and ask the question of do we really need to do these types of programs? Are there areas where we can cut back and transfer those funds to a more pressing need? The clear challenges for us as county commissioners is based on the fact that there are mandated programs, both from the federal standpoint, where we do get significant funding, but we still have to pay a portion of the administrative cost for that, to the efforts that Todd addressed on the potential reduction of our revenue. So how do you match that effectively? There are certain programs we have to do, and in doing so, other priorities may have to be not necessarily limited, but reduced in scope. Todd, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I mean, I think Commissioner, you and you touched on a number of it. I kind of look at it from sort of three distinct levels. There's kind of the macro level, what Commissioner Holen is talking about. Is, I think as a county, what kind of services do we provide? Is everything we do necessary? Are there things that we could do differently? And then there's kind of mid level where over the last number of years, the county's taken a strong dive into business process improvement, where we take a look at particular programs or services, or something as simple as how payments in finance get approved. Is there a way to streamline those? Is there a way to make those processes more efficient so that they cost less per transaction, or they cost less over a fiscal year? And then to Luke's point, I think we've encouraged all of our managers and directors and elected officials to look at ways to make reductions within their ordinary base budget, whether that be in this time of COVID-19 and people working remotely. There may be more costs for computer hardware and software, but are there ways to pay for those increases in computer hardware and software by making reductions in office supplies or in the mileage that used to be expensive for folks to travel to various meetings to be there in person? So I think we're looking at a wide range of options for making sure that Arapahoe County's fiscal situation is as efficient as possible.
Thank you both. Another sort of budget related, we obviously had to cancel the county fair this year. And we were able, thankfully, to do a virtual 4-H event that helped the kids from those communities who are involved with 4-H get their animals judged and sold and everything. So that was really rewarding to be able to do that. Nevertheless, it was a bummer to have the fair canceled. The question online is, how dependent is the county on revenue from the fair?
Well, I can address it. Maybe Todd can add additional information. We've never looked at the fair as a revenue generator. Um, it was initially set up as a place to highlight our agricultural heritage and provide opportunities for industry to come and display their services and hardware. However, 3 years ago, I was a big proponent of of growing the size of our exhibition hall by 22,000 square feet. We successfully built that addition, and that has been a very successful project. Last year, they brought in a profit of over $350,000. Our fair last year made almost $30,000 in revenues after all our expenses were paid. So it validated our forward thinking as commissioners to see an opportunity where we can spend a little bit of money to improve our service, our facilities and service areas, and the result has been that particular facility is booked just about every weekend for some special event that the communities are interested. We've had graduations there, and we've allowed to be able to pay for a very competent staff to keep it clean and maintained. And it's really a jewel in our bonnet for the revenue it generates. This year, obviously, that did not happen. But nonetheless, we move on and we try to, when we develop programs that our constituents demand and in this matter enjoy, we have to find ways to make it not a financial burden. For years, we've had to pay the $20,000 coming out of our general fund to keep the fair going. I think we're on the track where instead of paying for it, it becomes a financial generator and helps pay for those additional expenses to operate it.
Yeah, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're speaking of alternate uses. They're doing a Pictures on the Plains event as we speak right now, where they're inviting people in safe distancing conditions to watch a movie at the fairgrounds. So nice family event there, and we're going to try and look for more ways to do that. We have time for a few more questions. Here's one I believe is a friend of yours or a supporter of yours, Commissioner Holen. This is Reverend Dr. Eric D. Nelson, who says, "Thank you for your leadership. And what is the county doing toward monies for the new jail or for a new jail?" We had Sheriff Brown on the other night, and he said that the problems still are very much in effect there. So what can you tell us about how the board is thinking about this?
Well, we look at the politics, obviously, and the citizens of Arapahoe County overwhelmingly rejected the plan for a major expansion and major construction for a new jail. However, that does not eliminate the fact that there is a need. I think last year we spent close to $8 million just to keep the operation going, and we can't continue to do that because it just is not a cost-effective way of dealing with the problems. It's a 30-year-old jail. It's got electrical, water, and plumbing issues that are extremely difficult to repair because a lot of those facilities or those lines are encased in concrete. So we have to take the concrete out to repair them. So at some point we're going to have to bite the bullet and move forward with a new effort. And I think I think that's still our plan. And we have to find ways by which we can better educate the constituents of this county as to what the needs are. One of the few positive things about the COVID virus is that we've been forced to let some of our inmates out because of concerns about their safety, and we're discovering that those efficiencies have really helped us focus on specific programs and maintenance requirements that otherwise couldn't be dealt with.
Great, thank you. There's a question here that I think I can answer. It says that I heard the county got a lot of federal money for COVID, and where is this money going? You touched on it a little bit in your presentation. This is money that we got through the Federal CARES Act, and as Commissioner Holen said, it was about $114.5 million. And we are sharing it with our 13 communities, and we're using it ourselves for county expenses and unincorporated county expenses. This is money that needs to be spent by the end of the year, and we're doing it in a variety of areas, including telehealth with our Human Services Department, a lot of job and rental and eviction assistance and food assistance with Human Services and Community Resources. We're kind of, we're spreading it all over anywhere that needs it. Anything that's COVID related is fair game for this money. So we are in the process of allocating it and sharing it with our communities. And to get more information about that, you can go to arapahogov.com/Arapahoe Cares. And that takes you to a page that shows you all the different ways that we are utilizing these funds. And certainly, we want to use them all before the deadline runs out. And so if you have either yourself or your business or your community needs some assistance, I would definitely encourage you to visit our page there. Anything to add to that, Commissioner?
Well, I would just add that we, as I mentioned earlier, that Todd and his staff and those people involved in analyzing the community needs, there are clear and concise, specific requirements that have to be met before we disperse it, and we're being very, very careful to ensure that whatever recommendations come in from our communities, that they meet those specific standards. So we're not of mind to make sure that we willy-nilly throw this money around. It has to have a specific and clear requirement that meets the requirements that the feds put forth in the type of use those funds can be allocated for.
All right. Todd, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or is that covered?
No, I think it's a pretty good summarization. To add on to Commissioner Holen's comments, I think the main requirement we have is to ensure that this funding is being used for things that support the community that are a direct result of COVID-19. So that's kind of what the spending efforts have been focused on, and we're making sure, as Commissioner Holen said, to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted as far as the paperwork and using these federal funds.
Right.
Luke, I would just add to that the other governmental entities that are dependent upon sales tax, in some cases, 75% of their revenues have been cut or reduced. That is where the real need is, and these funds can't be used to be spent in that manner. And I know that the new legislation coming through Congress, which is becoming quite controversial, does have funds in there that can be given to municipalities and other governmental entities to help pay for the loss of revenue that are directly related to the COVID virus, and that is basically can then be spent to pay salaries of the firemen and the overtime for our law enforcement and community services that are impacted by these that will be impacted ultimately with the lack of these funds. So I just encourage everybody to talk to their congressmen and senators and let them know that we need to really support these additional funds, because some of the smaller communities are just going to be devastated as a result of that, and it will take them years to recover the loss of revenues.
Definitely. And I want to end on an upbeat note. We have a question here that about Commissioner Holen's recent airplane trip to deliver personal protective equipment to the eastern part of the state. You did this with one of your Republican colleagues from a neighboring county. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how rewarding that was for you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I've been an advocate of aviation for a long time. But this commissioner from El Paso County wanted some help in piloting over 500 pounds of medical and PPE equipment to two Grand Junctions Hospital. So I volunteered, and I flew over, and he flew it back. So it was a great experience, and it just turned out to be one of the most beautiful days in Colorado, and we experienced no problems crossing the notorious Front Range at about 14,000 feet. So it was an interesting experience. But I think the point that I've made about this is that all of us have an opportunity to really provide some help to this crisis, and one that is extremely important is the use of masks. As I mentioned earlier, Tri-County Health has done a survey, and in Arapahoe County, almost 96% of the people surveyed were wearing masks, which is one of the reasons that we're seeing a precipitous drop in the infection of COVID virus and the reduction of hospital stays and the elimination, at least for the last couple of weeks, of COVID virus related deaths in the county. So these masks work. They protect doctors and nurses have been using them for their entire career. The important point is, and the NIH and CDC clearly recommend this, is that wearing a mask will not necessarily protect you, but wearing a mask will prevent you from sharing infection to other people. So it's somewhat of a selfish, in my view, a selfish position not to wear a mask, because you could be asymptomatic, you could be carrying the virus, and you're actually spreading it to other people. And unfortunately, the elderly and old guys like me would not survive a COVID virus infection. So let's all work together as a community and watch social distancing, wear masks, and wash your hands every time you touch a potentially infected surface. So that's my plea tonight.
That's great advice and a good place to end. So I just want to thank Commissioner Holen and Todd Weaver for a great presentation. And I thank you all for joining us. Like I said, the next one is on Thursday, August 27th. That will be with Commissioner Jeff Baker and Open Spaces Director Shannon Carter. Thank you again.
Thank you all.